Hi, everybody. My name is Chelsea Bermudez. I am here today to discuss Chapter 8, Section 1, The Revival of Political Creativity. This section's primary purpose was to first display the flaws in Machiavelli's logic, and it begins to transition into Hobbes and some of the other political theorists as well. This section, of course, follows a very Machiavelli-centric one. This section certainly acknowledges Machiavelli's attempt to reshape the concepts of political theory. Machiavelli's position was that theoretically, that they being political theorists, might have a better handle on the reality of the individual, the groups, and in the states attempting to gain an advantage. Machiavelli focused on the uninhibited pursuit of interest and the corresponding established interest in the departure point. Where Machiavelli stumbled, or what he may have simply overlooked, was he did not develop a requisite analysis of the imperative preconceptions of interest politics. What's more, his logic was flawed and short-sighted. Our text makes an extremely salient point when it states, "For if interest were the expression of what is particular to an individual or group, the pursuit of different interests were latent with conflict and ultimately anarchy. Moreover, if the identity of individuals, groups, and classes derived from their different interests, how was it possible to establish a set of restraints which it would be in the interest of each to observe? In other words, didn't the pursuit of the interest presuppose what was the most difficult of attainment in a society of particulars? The sense of common life? It is here we see what is missing from Machiavelli's political theory: common life. Machiavelli's focal point is the actions of his actors and conflict. Yet he doesn't account for the relationship between men in the same group or social standing. He has such an emphasis on conflict, yet he simply could not account for civic virtue's influence on disorder and destruction, which of course are common themes in factional politics. This section also highlights the crisis of community, which was documented in religious theories in the late 16th and 17th centuries. The critical issue which plagued Luther, Calvin, and Zwingli was to attempt to bring Protestant men back to the consciousness of community following the encouragement of individualism. This would be an uphill battle, as groups such as Baptist or Separatists believed that a church was inherently a voluntary association. This belief was fostered by the idea that placed the church's authority on the free consent of an individual. By focusing on individualism, it created a conundrum, one that the church had to accommodate other interests beyond the individuals. This effectively changed the dynamic and long-held belief that the church is the closest knit group of all. This would also lead scholars like Milton and Hobbes to dig deeper and seek alternative theories. Milton asked the question, must societies remain content with the forced and outward union of cold and neutral and inwardly divided minds? That very question became key in Hobbes' demonstration of the natural starting point for political inquiry. At this point, justice became the starting point. However, the focal point was no longer the common ground to unite members of society, but rather to actually dive into the rationality of private interest or particularity. It is highlighted that political society had to adapt their theories, much like churches had to adapt to individualism. The new school of thought was no longer focusing on community's representation of natural unity and began questioning. One question posed was, if a community was not the product of nature, could it be constructed by human art? Hobbes, of course, responded in turn that Leviathan was the creator of art. Political creativity began to take the world by storm. Through church building and the development of states following the religious and political revolutions of the 16th century, the revolutions which created anarchy served as a source of inspiration for Hobbes. Hobbes would utilize that excitement and newness through scientific and mathematical models. Hobbes separated himself from Machiavelli, Luther, and Calvin through science. Science simply made sense in a political way for Hobbes. Important to note, this section really dives into the importance of disorder in society, whether it be political or religious. Sure, it brought challenges, but it enabled societies to be built and evolve. The revival of creativity also presented another side, fear. Society, which had long been reliant on religion or the church, was now becoming much more political. The church, in turn, felt threatened. Additionally, due to the change, many feared disorder and chaos. It is important to note that the order is the personification of being in political thought. Conversely, anarchy is the equivalent of non-being. Hobbes' England would experience such unrest that it would be decimated. Its effects were so profound that it would end up being a sort of mantra: history must not repeat itself. This would also propel the political concept of state of nature, or the condition of political nothingness. Thank you all for watching my video.